And welcome. We are back. This is episode 4 of the Bottomless podcast. That is BTTMLESS. We're just 3 friends who are brown and 1 black who are doing a podcast. And so, guys, my name is Kevin. Guys, introduce yourselves.
Lil V Vincent, as the people know.
Talk about it.
And Leslie.
Yeah. So this episode is going to do a little different. Usually we do topical. Usually we do maybe current events. And so we figured we do a little bit of like a get to know who you're listening to. So we actually put through our humble Instagram account, we put out a little bit of a what do you want to know, basically to the people who know us. And we actually got questions back. So let's address those.
Well, we got 2 questions back. So
I was about to gas it up.
No.
Originally, let's just clarify. Originally, this was going to be an Ask Us Anything episode. So really, but it's us asking each other questions because we only got 2 questions from our audience.
So I'll address the
great questions.
Yes,
really
2 great questions.
Beautiful.
So 2.5 questions. The first half question, JoJo, your homies love you to death and back. So for the first real question was from @Kaylance on Instagram, and Kaylance said, "When will Kevin propose to me?" And I'll answer that question by talking about Drake. One time, usually when rappers release albums and shit, they'll tell you like 2 weeks out or 2 months out. So there was a time when Drake came out with one of his albums and he said, "It's coming, just wait on it." And then 2 years later, so Kaylance, if 2 months can turn into 2 years for an album roll, it's coming, Kaylance. Just wait on it. That shit.
Or just do the Beyonce model and just drop a proposal at midnight on a random day.
Don't tell nobody. and then Tiffany asked, this is actually a pretty. It could be a minefield question. Tiffany asked, "I'd love to hear how each of you are managing this voting season / election." Because, we're currently, today's October 11th, 2020. And so, that's actually a very timely question.
What's her handle?
Let me see. The handle was @Tiffany Elise Bell.
Yeah, and when you guys get legions of follows because of this, you're welcome.
Yeah.
We'll let you borrow from our 20 followers. And Elise is spelled with a Y, right? ELYSE.
Yeah. Tiffany Elise Bell. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so we're just jumping in. Got it.
Let's do it.
Who wants to go first? Kevin, I'm curious actually what your thoughts are.
For the election voting season.
Yeah.
It's like a toxic relationship because some days I genuinely wake up and I'm like, I'm not fucking voting for nobody. Can't nobody tell me to fucking vote. Some days I wake up and some times of the day I'm like, I'm nobody. And then other days I'm like, so just a small background for our listeners. I definitely 1000% unabashedly voted for Trump in 2016. And so now I won't be voting for Trump. And that's like my main desire is to see him get the fuck out of office. And so some days I wake up and I'm like, as much as I despise Biden and Kamala for the horse shit they did in their past, that black folks just acting like we don't see, or they don't see I'm not black, I still sit here and go, I don't fucking like Biden and Kamala, but it's very much so I'd rather see them in that position than Trump. So it's stressful because I don't want to fucking vote for any party that's currently available, but at the same time, I really don't want fucking Trump in office. So if it comes down to it, my emotions are kind of swaying towards what I feel should be ethically responsible, which is trying to get the person I don't want not in that position. But it's stressful as shit. So that's how I'm handling it. It's like an emotional turmoil every day of like, should I? What's my ethical responsibility? I have a moral responsibility. I can't just like act like this is okay. Like as a younger Kevin, I'm 29 now. As younger Kevin, like 22, 23, you would not catch me. Go fuck yourself. You're not catching me at a voting ballot. But now it's like, man, like there's real life, at least for 2020, I can see real life implications to how minority groups in this country are affected by the rhetoric of the person who is in office. And it's some complete
not
fuck
just
shit.
the rhetoric. Yeah.
The policy, so much. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm handling it, like under pressure and under tension of just feeling an ethical responsibility about it.
And I do want to note, just because I feel like due to the historic nature of her position that she's in, her name is actually pronounced Kamala. And it's
Ooh.
worth, I feel like it's worth,
Mm,
like
yeah.
not at all bad on you, but just for any of our, I actually didn't know until she like got on the ticket. Like I thought it was Kamala too, and then it's like, oh, it's Kamala. And I just feel like it's worth.
No, it is.
Oh,
Fuck. I'm
for
trying to
sure.
remember. There's some clip of someone like purposely saying Kamala, like just to be an asshole, and they're like, they're saying Kamala, and they're like, it's Kamala, and they're like, oh, now you're being so PC. It's like, bitch, that's her name. What do you mean? It's like
Yeah.
calling me like Vincent, and me like, oh, it's like Vincent. It's like, how dare
Well,
you
and it's
police my
also
speech?
just, yeah, it's like the first black/Asian woman like in this, like, let's come on, like seriously, news commentators can, not you, Kevin, but like
No,
people commenting like can't get her name right. It's just like embarrassing.
No, that's
But
real
anyway.
shit. Like you need like any white person or non-ethnic person who doesn't understand that, like watch the Key and Peele skit where he's like, "Hey, Aaron," and like a bunch of white kids are staring at him. He's like, "Hey, Aaron." he was like, Aaron. He was like, if one of y'all say one more goofy ass name,
Uh,
but that's real
yeah,
shit. Cause you ethnic, you fucking name might
the
pronounce.
only mispronunciation that I'm okay with is Kamala. But Leslie, what are you thinking for voting this election?
Oh, I voted actually this weekend, and
Good for you.
um
Good.
I understand to a certain extent people on like far ends of the extreme who are like, oh, I don't want to vote because at this point there there's no point because
Mm.
they're both so bad. Oh, wow. Sorry.
Wow,
Wow,
For our
Leslie.
listeners, I specifically muted
Rude.
my phone. Anyway,
out of
um
control.
but I just don't find it interesting or productive for me to engage in that. It's like, not just
Yeah.
vote. And yes, other things need to happen. But to me, getting Trump out of office is extremely, it's not just like, well, it's going to have a big impact. From my granted limited understanding, I do feel like if he remains in office, it's gonna forever change like American democracy. Like, there's a lot of pieces out there about fascism, like the rise of American fascism. And from what I can understand, I agree with how he's like an authoritarian. Like, and it's not to say Biden is perfect, but I don't think that Biden is pushing the same type of insane course that Trump would push us toward, 4 more years of Trump.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and this is the first time ever that I actually researched all of the other things that were on the ballot, which I'm very sad and ashamed to say, because now at the place of understanding that I am with engaging in electoral politics, which is still like far behind where I eventually want to be. But even just at this level, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I ever like wasted the opportunity to vote for these other positions or these other
Mm.
issues that are on the ballot. Especially with the immense impact that those less covered and like lower level positions have in communities. Like if anything, that's sort of more so where your vote is going to be felt. So yeah, so it was a long process leading up, and then day of there were some stuff on there some stuff on the ballot I didn't know was going to be on there, so I sort of like made an event of it. And I would just encourage our listeners who are going to vote, that it's just very worthwhile, because you can also treat it not just as a chore but like a learning experience, because like in researching the other things that were on the ballot, like I
Wow.
Out of control. She votes once and now she thinks she just
Yo,
runs the country.
Leslie's pops. Leslie's Miss Popular. That shit is popping over there.
it's literally my aunt. Sorry. Okay, so what about you, Vincent?
So I will be voting. I was a little gray after the Democratic primary when Biden became the nominee, and like his ideology, I just viscerally can't stand. But I've come a long way thanks a lot to the pandemic and the George Floyd protests and like the
Yeah.
current administration's response. So basically, I'm full into Cornel West's framing where he says it's, do you want to slay the dragon of neo-fascism or neoliberalism? And I
Mm.
think the reality is, as much as I hate neoliberalism, it's much more. It's easier to battle at this point in time, and to be clear, like I don't think it stops here because neoliberalism, I think, aids and abets and leads to neo-fascism. So it's been a big part of how we got where we were. But if anything, it's just buying us a little more time.
That's a good way of putting it. Buying time.
Yeah, just a little bit, right? Like with climate change and, I mean, especially climate change, but other economic things too. Like, I'm not I'm not illusioned to thinking that Biden Harris is anything remotely close to a good choice. But in light of the alternative, I am going to suck it up and hold my nose and vote. But I will say, as much as I respect other people, I get why other people do it. You will not catch me voter shaming. I'm not. I don't think that's the way to get people to engage with electoral politics. So you will yet to see me post on Instagram saying if you don't vote, then like you're the reason why Trump will win. Like it's not my MO.
Thank you, Tiffany. That was a good question.
That was a good question.
So, we came up with some questions for each other, and I guess that we'll just go ahead and dive right in. So the first question that I have is that anybody who knows Kevin, which is a good amount of our base right now, anybody who knew him in high school will remember that his eyebrows looked markedly different than they do today.
It was popping.
It was a look. I have to say it was very unique. Kevin plucked his eyebrows in high school and they were very thin and just like little half circles.
Just so anyone who's listening on Spotify and not watching on the YouTube, so literally in high school, what she's saying is it looked like you could take a pencil, touch it on a paper, and pull it across, and that's what my eyebrow looked like. Whereas now I get them professionally done with a threading lady, and they look thick,
like
but they're more natural. They're full body. Whereas in high school, like that shit was like unacceptable. I'm sorry, Leslie. I'm sorry I interrupted.
So the first question is, why did you pluck your eyebrows in high school?
This is a crazy story because it actually has like a lot of background. So there I was, 7th grade in the lunch line at John Griffin Middle School in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
You went to John Griffin too?
I went to John Griffin.
I don't think I ever knew that.
7th and 8th grade. Yeah. So there I was, and some girl like turned around, and I forgot why. And
I knew it was going to be something like this. I knew it was going to be some girl traumatizing you about your eyebrows.
It's always women while I drink black coffee, while I pluck my eyebrows. So some girl turns around and she's like, yeah, them eyebrows is thick as hell. Mind you, we're in line, and it's like all like my friends were all like the basketball players and the hip hop dudes and the football players and the track team and shit. So it was a bunch of dudes, like there's a bunch of black dudes who I really rock with and fuck with who in line. And you can't, like, dog, somebody say some shit like that about you in front of a bunch of black people in school, your ass about to get clowned for the next like 2 years. So she turned around and allowed his shit in front of everybody. We waiting in line. Anybody got nothing to do anyway, so they just turn around with her. He's like, yeah, them shits is kind of thick as hell though. And they all just started laughing and shit. And I was like, never again. So I just took a tweezer and I just started plucking the dog shit out of my mind you, when I first plugged them, they didn't come out, like I didn't pluck them all the way to pencil thin. Like I would just touch up the outsides, but then every time I would go back to redo it, like unless you're a professional eyebrow person, you don't know probably like spacing and spacing and shit and proportion. So every time I would go redo it, I just kept like re-cleaning and taking off new area that didn't. So I didn't actually, like, it happened over time, and I was like, when I look back at pictures, I was like, damn, like no, somebody should. People try to tell me. No, people try.
I met you. No, this is crazy, guys, because Kevin is saying this started in 7th grade for him. By the time I met Kevin, he was a senior in high school. So it went for 5 years.
I probably started plucking them in probably 8th or 9th grade. So sometimes short, because at the time I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm not gonna shave them. Like I don't know what the fuck to do with them. And then I heard of like girls plucking their eyebrows, and I just bought some tweezers and I started doing it. And then it's probably like 9th grade. So like 4.5 years I started plucking them bitches.
How thick was thick though? Like how do they look compared to your current brows? Because your brows right now are like thick, but they're a healthy thick.
Well, these are like manicured thick. Like they're thick. Like they look bushy. Like you look at you like them shits is bushy. Like nah. Like you need to clean them shits up. Like nah, dog.
Also, I feel like that question's been on Leslie's like mind and heart, because now I'm thinking about it. I feel like you inspired the art for the podcast with your eyebrows.
I'm not doing this with you guys.
Doesn't the art kind of look Never mind.
What? Does the art remind you of Kevin's old eyebrows?
Oh, his current eyebrows.
I'm so not done. Oh, we're not done.
That's really funny. I can see it. And guys, one of our proposed podcast names before we arrived at Bottomless was Between Kevin's Eyebrows. So, Vincent's onto something. And the other proposed name was I'm Not Calling Vince a Hypocrite, but
wow.
I like that title.
That was based on you, Kevin, because you kept saying that. In our pilot, before we started releasing them publicly, you would always say, "Oh, I'm not calling Vince a hypocrite," but
wait, what was the other like close second names we almost went with?
Oh,
one was Backslidden.
Backslidden.
Yeah.
That would have been the one.
There's another B one. We had like 3 Bs. We really liked the B. Vincent, did you ever have like a defining moment in your life like that, in young Vincent's life, where and then it caused you to like drastically change something?
I don't think so. The only thing I can think of, and I feel like I might have told you guys in one of like our demo episodes, maybe the first one, is that someone once, a girl in 9th grade actually commented on one of my MySpace pics, and I noticed that when I smiled, I hid my lips because I wanted to make my lips smaller. And she was like, "Stop making your lips skinny. LMBO." Like dead ass. I remember the way she wrote it. She had all lowercase, like a space in between the BO and the period.
Tattooed in your brain.
And ever since then, I've been very conscious when I take pictures to not look like I'm hiding my lips. But honestly, it was a good call out. It wasn't a bad call out, to be fair.
Yeah. Oh my god. You should have got your homegirls a jumper. Oh shit! All right, for you two, this is a triple-edged sword. For y'all two.
I'm nervous.
Preface: I was watching a clip with a comedian, Hassan Minhaj, and he was talking about immigrant parents have two.
Love him.
Yeah. He was like, immigrant parents have 2 stipulations on their children: what you do for a career and who you marry. He was like, you are, as an immigrant child, you are the property of your child, your property of your parent, and you cannot marry outside of your parents' blessings, and you cannot work a job that's something that would be dishonorable to the family and the perception of your immigrant parent. So, growing up, especially Leslie with a Asian father, and then Vince, like, you have a black dad and a white like with some black families, it's like, don't bring the white girl home, and then with some whites, like, so with y'all, did you ever feel pressure growing up, or even now, of a tension or an expectation of who you should marry in terms of like ethnicity, in terms of skin color, in terms of like Vince does like your mom not care, but your dad's like, don't get no white, even though I got a white, like Leslie, I know how Asians are. I'm not going to say it on this podcast, but I know how Asians is.
Yeah, my dad's been dropping warnings my whole life to not get with a white girl because of what he had to go through. I'm joking. I'm completely joking.
What up, Mama Vince?
No. No, I don't think I had any like racial expectations. But it was generally like white or black, especially where we're from. It's overwhelmingly white and black, not much brown. But the expectation is that it's like a good, wholesome Christian girl. Like my mom will send me these corny ass people and be like, "Oh, she's really cute," and what she means is like she's really wholesome and Christian.
Say their name. We know them. Say their name.
No. No one you guys know. A good God-fearing woman is what they want for me, even now.
I don't even want a good God-fearing woman.
I sure as hell don't want a good God-fearing woman, but
no, that's such a good question and so real, because I actually just caught up with a friend yesterday, and he's married to a woman who is from Saudi Arabia, and they still haven't told her family.
Ooh.
They've been married like almost a year now, and they haven't told, and her family.
What is he? What is he?
He's white.
They gonna kill them.
Well,
they gonna turn him into camel food. He not coming back. They gonna cut.
But actually, it's kind of beautiful because like he's literally like found a job that he's applying to there so that they can move there and he can meet her family. But the main thing is more so than he's white, it's because he's not Muslim. But essentially, dang, I hope maybe this is fine. I'm not saying any names, but essentially, like, you know, he's gonna have to pretend to be Muslim for the duration of their marriage, which is just such a real thing that I think
Yeah.
so many, like first gen kids, you know, with parents who either are still in or came in their midlife to America from their homeland. I think so many first gen kids deal with that, and it's like seems so shocking to talk to friends, you know, who just have no concept of like that level of, and it's just kind of like that's how it is, you know. And you
Yeah.
can't even just say, well, the parents are so close-minded. It's like, I don't think, at least, you know, I mean, I don't think it's right, but like I don't think you can just turn and lob a fireball at the parents for
Or they're uniquely close-minded, right? Like there's like different applications of it.
right. Yeah.
My parents would probably have it'd be a tough. I mean, maybe they've already swallowed the pill of me not being Christian, but like the thought of me bringing home a Muslim is like worse than maybe even an atheist person. Like
Oh,
I feel like they would.
that's fucked up. That's so
Yeah,
fucked up.
I mean that's just
That's
the
real.
reality of. Yeah,
Yeah.
Islam is the ops for a lot of conservative Christians
Yeah.
Yeah.
more than the devil himself.
So true. I would just say that through over the course of my life, I've sort of continued to push that pressure very much is there in all aspects of my life. And I do want to take a moment to say I feel like a lot of kids of non-immigrant parents don't really understand it. Like, you know, I just feel like they view it as like, oh, you're letting your parents control your life or like that type of thing. And it's
Mhm.
really not. Like, it's depending on, you know, depending on the culture. It's like for me, you know, my dad is Korean, and like the under you've mentioned this, Kevin, but the understanding of honor, especially like familial honor, it's
Mhm.
not what I hear, what I can tell people, you know, it's just so stereotyped and flattened, and it's like, no, like, so I very much hold those things dear to my heart, but at the same time know that like some of the things that I care about and I'm gonna probably do and pursue in life won't match my dad's understanding of familial honor for him. So
Mhm.
more so it's been having sitting down and having conversations like, dad, like I of course care about this, but to me this is the way I'm applying it. So like I actually did that with my dad when I decided to transition into the nonprofit world, and not because I had to or because I was like letting, but because I love my dad and I want him to feel proud of me and I want him to feel like, you know, his daughter's doing well. And I just told him like for me it really is like the path that will most make me fulfilled. Like
Yeah.
money just really isn't it for me. Like it's not a
Mhm.
marker of success in the way. And I, you know, we talked about how like of course him moving here, living in a car when he first got here, of course he's always going to have money top of mind for his kids and view that
Yeah.
as like he wants to know when he leaves that his kids are going to be able to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
But I've been able to like, so all that to say, I feel like whoever I end up marrying, it'll just be, I'm gonna when the time comes, like I want, you know, I want it to be a conversation, and
Mhm.
we'll see. If anything, there was a little more like, yeah, again, that economic pressure. Like
Mm.
the first and only guy that I've dated, the big conversation was that he at that time like didn't have a college education and didn't have a clear pathway for like making money.
Mm.
And that was more so like my dad's big pushback.
What
1000%.
is loyal? What do you mean by loyalty in this context? Like loyal to, like what does that mean exactly? Like how do you show loyalty in the choice of your partner
Oh, you mean honor?
or honor? Yeah.
It's very hard to put words on because it's like so embedded. I don't, Kevin.
Yeah, with honor,
I don't know
like
if you
especially, yeah, especially in Eastern cultures, whether it's Middle Eastern or Asian or yeah, Asian culture. So honor, like what Leslie was talking about, there's a certain number one, a stereotype of what a man's role in society, what a woman's role in society should be, and so like. Man, yeah, Leslie talking about a male who there's not a clear understanding of how I'm going to economically provide for my family. That's an expectation. Is this kid educated? Does he have a good job? Is he going to provide well? No, then don't get away from my daughter. For like a woman, like man, is she like man, a liberal woman, a feminist woman in the Middle East, that shit ain't flying. Like you bring that girl home and she's like, I want to, like all these ambitions and dreams, and so honor the idea. And then also religion's a very huge thing. So like in we just talked about between us, like the whole Christianity thing, but like in those places, so any of those markers, whether it be religion, whether it be a male who can't provide, whether it be a woman who's isn't bent on having a family and being a homemaker, you bring those things home, and it societally, unfortunately, it brings ill repute and almost this level of like embarrassment and shame upon the family. And so honor is I don't the fathers and the patriarchs in the family don't want any puzzle piece in the family to be able to be laughed at, to be looked down upon, to be looked on with ill repute. And so that's why you have things like honor killings. But to like bring it all the way back to like me and Leslie being Asian, there's a certain level of Asian parents. They want to brag to their other Asian friends about their kids, right? My son went to college. My son married a good man. My son married a, and it's
They're a
all
doctor.
about. Yeah, they all want to brag. They went to UNC Chapel Hill and they're a lawyer, they're doc, all this shit. So yeah, honor is a sense of, it's almost like they want to wear you like a charm on their bracelet. And if you're like this unshiny charm in any way, whether it be job, career, religion, etc., then you brought dishonor upon the family and shit.
I think that's part of it. I don't think that's totally what I meant, but that's definitely a huge chunk of it. Like I agree with everything you said as part of yeah.
Okay.
I think there's overlap
no,
too
and
in
I mean,
like in like Southern culture. Not to redirect, but just quickly, I feel like it reminds me a lot of like especially the women in my family, my mom and my grandma. They love to have things to trout out about their kids or their grandkids, and like to an annoying extent. Like, like why are you telling strangers about like my work life, mom? Like they don't care. It's like while they're ordering like, I don't know, fucking Smithfield's Chicken Barbecue midline, like, so my son works at Facebook, and it's like,
there it is. Hey, he revealed it.
Oh shit! Yeah,
I'm gonna lose my job.
Let me just tell you right now. I tell my mom you work at Facebook. She be telling her customers my son's friend works at. My mom like, my son don't bring me honor. But my son's friend, you work at Facebook.
I love that.
Which is funny because I don't even like telling people that I work at Facebook.
I don't blame you. I would want to keep that shit DL just for multiple reasons.
And I will wrap up this little part of the conversation by saying it's been really cool to see the evolution between my relationship with my dad as I've more so just like, just engage in conversation about things that aren't going to perfectly match like his idea of as a family unit, moving forward in a way he likes, and like, or not likes, but just anywho, wow, clearly I'm horrible at talking about this topic. I'm going to think about it and like,
I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm glad you said
yeah.
Just kidding.
But the cool thing is like, I texted him about an advancement I'm getting at work, and it was so cute because he was replying and like talking about how proud he is, and he called me Manager Nim, which like, I don't know if your mom does this. I know, because like Nim is a way of like adding honor to a title. So like Sanseng Nim is like what you would call a teacher. It's like a respected, honorable teacher. And it's just so cute because even that, I mean, I just feel like my dad is definitely, that's a bit more of like the American, like having been here now for 30 years. It's creeping in where like we make those little, it's almost like a desecration, like it's like a dad like telling that to like his youngest daughter, but he does that type of thing now, and it's just sweet.
Yeah, for sure. 1000%. 1000.
You said it's Nim?
It's Nim.
Like, isn't that kind of like,
don't oh, I see the wheels turning. Don't start using that now.
just asking for a friend.
Let me say, there's like 20 Asian girls that Vince about to start dropping Nim at the end of their shit. Vince gonna be walking through the hallways of Facebook. Ponytail Nim. Blue shirt.
I'm listening.
I'm just doing some market research. Wait, so kind of on the note, like we were thinking, like kind of reminiscing and looking at old pictures as we thought through like what we could ask each other. So on that youthful note, I am curious, we're gonna get a little youthful and ratchet. Do you guys have any embarrassing first like drunk in public, drunk in college stories? Kevin, you went to a party at school. Did you ever, I know you didn't necessarily love the university, did you ever get ratchet in your
Nah, because I was like a brainwashed Christian at the time, and so like I was like, I don't go to the club. Christians don't go to the like a head ass. So
amen.
Mind you, like my roommate is in the room breaking down weed and shit and weighing out weed. He got like weed all over my desk and shit. It's just funny, like the dynamic. But nah, like I didn't go to parties. So like ironically, my first drunken story was like I was like 14. We skipped school, stayed at some friend's house, and I had like I was like all of 130 pounds. I had 2 Coronas and I was rolling on the back patio of that house.
Not rolling off of 2
I'm-
Coronas.
So I'm sitting there and they have this little dog and I'm like grabbing the dog and cuddling with the dog. I'm like, oh, I love you. and then I think they threw me in a closet for like 30 minutes because I was just like like just off my rocker and like saying dumb, silly shit and having a conversation with myself until I sobered out. It was like 2 Coronas. That was my first time. I literally had never been drunk before. I maybe had a sip of wine or beer before. That was my first time, like, drinking 2 whole beers, not, like, being like, this is disgusting. And then, like, remember visibly, like, the feeling, like, oh, shit, like, it's lit.
You can just hear Kevin in that closet, 14-year-old drunk, doing his weird incantations that he was doing earlier to himself, rapping bars to himself and giggling.
Wait, actually, that's just a real quick, broad yes or no question. Like, are you like sad drunks or happy drunks in general?
Oh, shit.
I'm usually a happy
I feel like
drunk.
Vincent's a happy drunk. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm out, if I'm alone, because if I'm drinking alone, then unless I have tequila, then I'm gonna get like in a very soothed, sullen,
Okay.
introspective mood.
Boricua.
And I
But if I
tequila.
have tequila or if I'm out with people, then it's definitely like a happy drunk. Like, oh shit, we like this. Like, yeah, so happy or sad depending on context.
What about you?
I don't really like how so far. I mean, I really have only had like a few major experiences, which unfortunately Vincent experienced. Literally the last.
Jojo, what up? Jojo,
I'm such a.
Jojo sent pictures
No,
over.
it's
Jojo,
not that
Jojo, what's
kind.
up?
I
Oh
just.
shit.
I think I'm a bad influence.
No.
No, Jojo. Damn, Vince is a bad influence. He got me drunk too. I swear to
We
God,
should
I got
have-
the story. I got the story.
Maybe have our party in LA stories after this, or we can go there now.
I mean, honestly, I don't really have like a funny. The first time I got drunk, oh, R.I.P. to speaking of parents if they listen to this. But the first time that I got drunk was in college, and it was probably like not until I think it was literally my senior year, and it was just like a bonfire, and I tried that pink Mad Dog. You don't know what I'm talking
Messy.
about?
Messy.
MD 2020.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Leslie has some hood liquor. That shit's like the hood. That's the gas station
See.
hood liquor.
And that's coming from a position of just like I didn't really drink that much in general, and it wasn't actually from any kind of like sense of religion or morality or anything. It was just like it didn't really appeal to me. But I did end up like I think I just had some fun. I got a little bit feisty, was like a little bit playful, and a little bit like
Leslie, when she gets drunk, if you don't know, she is a dancer, and meaning that she's quite flexible. So she gets drunk, and her legs turn to like little fish fins, and they just kind of flop around. And she gets feisty, so she's flexible. She does these like high kicks and jumps around for no
what?
reason.
But anyway, basically I just got a little feisty, and then I ended up like sleeping at that person's house because I could not walk home, even though it was only like a couple blocks.
That's hilarious.
But the bad time with Vincent, the last time that I got really drunk, I literally was knocked out of commission for the entire next day. And it was just so embarrassing and sad because I was only there for like 4 or 5 days visiting.
Yeah.
And this was last year. And I just got too drunk, and I had never even had like a hangover. So like it was my first hangover the next morning, and I was literally like just lying in bed until like 3 p.m. or something. And then we like
Oh my
scuttled out
God.
to a Korean restaurant and got sundubu, you know, that soup with like the soft tofu and egg.
Oh my God, yeah.
Anyway.
This bad habit. I guess I'm just like I'm a bigger guy than most. So most people's like first bad hangovers just happen to be because of me. And I don't mean to, but I do. I'm just like,
you do.
I'm a happy drunk, and I'm like, let's keep taking shots. Come on, guys. And then little do I know, like,
Dude, I literally remember looking over at Vincent, you just being like, you're just sitting on the little bench and you're like, I'm feeling good. And I'm meanwhile over here like, this was in my good part of the drunk where I was like dancing around and like having a good time. And then after that, it just went down.
That's amazing.
yeah, honestly, I feel like I'm good at cutting it when I'm gonna get out of control. But there's only a handful of times when I feel like I've been incapacitated. The first real time I was with my last roommate, actually. We were at a dance studio in our hometown, and we just decided to have like a nice little late night session. Got a few Four Locos, and I think I was 21, so I I also didn't drink until I was of age, except once when I was in the Bahamas. So it was legal at 18 for moral and religious reasons.
Thought you were going to
Uh,
Bahamas.
yeah.
Wasn't that like a family trip?
Yeah. So I snuck off to get a drink. Um, and I got a Heineken, thought it was disgusting. I was like, not missing out on much. So 21, I'm still like kind of a noob with alcohol, and we were just dancing, and I did a Four Loko. I was like, you know what? Let's go get more. Let's go to the gas station. So we like walked over to the gas station, got another Four Loko. I drank maybe half of it, and then everything just came back up. And when I tell you I lit that dance studio up, like lit it up, and I felt bad because obviously we were not really supposed to be drinking in a studio. So my roommate had to go back after he took me home, and I crawled into bed dead. He had to go back and just clean up the whole studio. He walked in and apparently it smelled like straight throw up. So shout out to him.
Wow.
Good times. Don't do Four Locos ever since.
Anyone who knows Vince in LA now knows that liquor is breakfast and dinner, and then you never know what's gonna be for lunch.
Only when people are visiting.
Nah.
Get excited.
Nah.
Marvin, let me make a drink right now.
No, not in the middle of the.
Oh, okay, never mind.
You can. Okay, this is similarly in the vein of throwback because I feel like you got this car in high school, I think. But Vincent, why is your car named Plassy, as in placenta? Like, why? Vincent has a dark red car that is named.
No, rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Oh, I forgot that he said that.
Smoke one for Plassy.
Well,
why was it named Plassy, as in placenta? Which is just peak you. It's peak Vincent.
Whenever I just learned the word placenta, I just could have swore that it was a beautiful name for like a daughter, despite what it actually meant. So I was just trying to reclaim the word, you know? Like some people have the N-word, I have placenta, and I wanted to reclaim it. And the fact that the Mazda was red, the red placenta, makes it all the better. So
isn't the placenta what is born with the baby?
Yeah, it's nutritious.
Okay, yeah,
you're a little bubble, yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
The placenta, incidentally, I don't know if you guys knew this, but it has been reclaimed in other uses. You can literally like pay a bunch of money to get a placenta facial. It's supposed to be like really good for your skin.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
My part of my plan for my next mental health day is to go get a placenta facial.
Oh my god.
When did you first get called Lil Korea?
So for anyone who's listening who doesn't know me or Kevin, I used to have a car, and on the radio of the car, whenever it started up, Lil Korea came across the screen. And I never told nobody because at that point I was a Christian. And Lil Korea was the name I had from high school. When I when you rap and shit in high school, like everybody has to have a rapper name. So Lil Korea was one of the names I developed. But that came because I came to North Carolina from Korea, and all I used to talk about was Korea. Like, yo, anyone who knows Korea or has ever been to Korea, like Itaewon is a big flea market street in Korea. So like I would talk about Korea everything. Korea this, Korea that, Korea's so great, Korea. So
you're one of those.
Again, all my friends in high school was predominantly black. So like I'm in the classes with like the football players and the basketball players. And one of them was like, yo, that's a little Korea right there. He was talking about, like, it's just easy, like ponytail, blue shirt. It's like, that's a little Korea. He's talking about Korea. So they call me Little Korea. And then again, when you say something that catches in front of black people, that shit ain't going nowhere. So then it went from Little Korea, and this one girl in front of everybody one day was like Baby China, and that shit just took. So like Little Korea, Baby China, like Little Asia, all that. So Little Korea came. Little Korea came from
China.
Little Korea came from my friends in high school who like knew I could rap and was like the kid who like loved hip hop so much and shit like that, and like was from Korea and talked about it all the time. That's where that shit came from. Yo, question. Now that Leslie is in Hawaii and Vince is in Los Angeles and I'm in Floribama, fuck this place. What did growing up in North Carolina, the South, Christian, Republican, Southern, but also Fayetteville being like heavily black and black culture and black history, how, when you got to these new places, Leslie, whether it was New Jersey or Hawaii or Vince, UNCW is still North Carolina, but then Los Angeles, what did that do to y'all's minds? Like, was there like a slight cultural shift y'all had to make of like, man, there's a lot of shit I didn't realize that I grew up that I thought was just life, and that shit is just like Southern Christian Republican
That's a good
lenses.
You have like 2 hours.
You're right. Maybe we should say that for another.
Like this question is gonna feed into some of our future topics.
That's true.
Yeah, this might be a good little little foreshadow.
So we'll switch that. We'll
We can give some
No.
tidbits.
No.
Give
Okay.
some
All right.
sprinkles to whet y'all's appetite for what may or may not be next week's episode. Maybe next week's, I forget.
Yeah.
I can just go first because a lot. I think the cool thing about, so I went to school in the same area code, right? So not in the same town that I was born in, but like same area code, really culturally not that different, besides the fact that it's university. So there's just a breadth of experiences that you interact with, but not so much so that it wasn't still like culturally the Bible Belt, culturally white dominant, like it was a predominantly white institution. So coming to Los Angeles was a super change in culture in a lot of good ways. So I think just the main thing was a realization that there's a lot more lived experiences than I think I could have imagined where I grew up. Just like the amount of people here, even that are born and raised in LA, like depending on where in LA you are, it's a very different experience culturally. Obviously being super Mexican here, there's also a huge Korean population. I lived in Koreatown for the first 4 or 5 years here. And just meeting a lot of like immigrants, like different than the military immigrants that I was used to growing up with, since we grew up in a military town. So like a lot of my close friends, like I have one that's literally from the Middle East and culturally from the Middle East. So I think just the awareness of the different types of lived experiences was dramatically expanded, which is cool. But that's just one of many.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tag on a question to that real quick before I answer, if both of you want to answer, because I feel like it's like a doable short. But like in the same vein, what's the biggest difference between what you thought that you like wanted in life when we were all together in North Carolina versus like now? Or maybe not what you wanted in life, but just one, like the biggest difference in yourself between the place where, well, you both were like born and raised in Fayetteville, right?
Dude.
Me, yes.
Oh wait, Kevin.
Well, Army dad.
But where were you before? I thought you were there for pretty much. I thought you were one of those Army kids who like got at Fort Bragg and then stayed there forever.
Oh no. So before that, born in Chicago, or at least I remember was Germany, then Arizona, then Korea, and then North Carolina.
What?
Yeah. I was moving.
I ever knew that.
Your boy was in these streets.
Well, damn. What time?
Call me Lil Asia.
Calm down.
No.
Calm down.
I can't. Wait. I can't be black. Vince won't let me call myself black.
Ah!
I'm gonna be Lil Asia.
Cause you're not.
You got me exactly. But I am half Korean, so I'm gonna be Lil Asia. Feeding you this Fu Young, this generous. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, well, we'll revisit that. But basically, what's the biggest difference in yourself between having been in North Carolina for a while, even if not born and raised, and then when you like exited out to where you are now?
I think the biggest thing was like, so I had experiences in non-Southern cultures, but there was just a way of the mentality, whether it's Southern, whether it's because I came from a white evangelical church, or whether it's because like Southern white is usually heavily Republican. That blend, which is if you know it, you understand like Southern people kind of are unapologetic about how they feel. Now they have Southern hospitality. So there's a way of life of like, this is kind of my views and my outlooks on life, and I'm unapologetic about it. And I'm also kind of maybe a little close-minded about it. And maybe it's weird because you might even look down on like a Southern white person might look down, or it's just a Southern person might look down upon like techie people or New York people. And there's like this like weird games we all play where New York or Northern people look down upon Southern people, and Southern people look down upon Northern people and shit like that. I think the main difference was like I had such a heart for like the South, cause like Southern food and soul food, and then like also Fayetteville is just a rich Black history and like just all the beautiful shit behind that of like I love Black culture. So being around so many Black people was like hip hop was like comfort. So getting out here now was just realizing like, dog, that shit is not like a lot of things you think, whether it's your church values, whether it's your military values, whether like not everywhere loves the military, not everywhere loves soul food, not everywhere loves Christian, not everywhere loves like if you don't realize that you finna walk into some of these spaces like San Francisco and New York and think these motherfuckers ain't gonna, you may, yeah, you cute and you brown, your eyebrows popping, but motherfucker, you tell them in a heartbeat that you military or Christian or that shit might put you like on the outs with people. So it was like getting into these other spaces and being like, oh shit, like Southerners are nice to each other, but motherfucker, like, no, I'm not from North Carolina. I'm in San Francisco. No, I'm not. No, I'm from Korea. Like from these other
Okay.
places. So it was just realizing that, man, like we all love each other in the South, I think, as a Southern culture, but not everyone looks to the South like as with such a high regard as maybe Southerners do. Like if you're Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Florida, whatever.
Well, that makes sense.
I think for me, it's kind of a flip of that perspective in that I think I unlocked a new horizon of things to learn. Like I feel like when I left the South, there was like a whole new playing field that began to actualize of how many things I didn't know or didn't understand, which is actually pretty exciting. And like a whole new play field of like cultures to learn or just ways of life to learn. And I say it's the flip because I think there's also like I think there's some truth in like people don't always love what they imagine Southern folk to be. But I think on the other side, Southern folk often don't love like other cultures, or they have like a very I'm speaking to my specific lived experience, right? Like it's easy to have a very flat understanding of the world beyond church, the military, and the Bible. So it's been cool to see my perspective on like as like you imagine yourself becoming an adult and becoming like smarter or more wise, and I think what those things mean to me now are a bit richer and with more depth.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. I took a shower.
You know, I will say Vince taking me out to LA because I think that I hadn't left North Carolina yet. So Vince took me out to LA. I went to go visit him. He made me sit at some vegan restaurant for like 2 hours while he finished work. And I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna get jumped. These vegans don't like, I'm in here eating I'm out here eating pork belly and pig feet and ham hocks, and he got me this vegan, gonna jump me, and I got out there and like they were actually really nice to me. Surprise, surprise. No, but yeah, like yeah.
Well, I assume you weren't walking around carrying like animal parts trailing out of your pocket.
No,
Like,
he was hunting. He was in full camo gear in the streets of K-Town, like shooting squirrels and eating them. So
the restaurant's named vegan. I'm like, y'all got pig feet. Y'all got pickled pig feet in here. Oh, by the way, what's the Wi-Fi password? But y'all got pickled pig feet.
oh.
Well, to answer the question of how moving impacted me, so some of my background, I grew up moving every 2.5 years up until I hit 7th grade, which is when I landed in Fayetteville with Kevin and Vincent. But I didn't meet them until I was in like 9th grade. But I was born in Georgia, the state, and then moved to Kansas, and then Ansbach, Germany, Bamberg, Germany, San Antonio, Texas, and then was in Fayetteville for 5 years because my dad got like a double duty station. So we were there, a double tour, whatever it's called. And then moved to New Jersey for my senior year of high school, and then went to school in Richmond, Virginia, and went home to New Jersey for the first couple years for Christmas, and then home to Fayetteville for Christmas and summer the next. And then I lived in Fayetteville for like 1.5 years, 2 years after graduating college. And now I'm here in Hawaii. So I don't think it was as big of a thing. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't like there was all of my foundational stuff in that culture of like Fort Bragg, Fayetteville. But it definitely did have an impact in that, something I mentioned to both of you, just like moving to a place where it's so heavily like islanders and Asian people and mixed, and almost everyone is an immigrant or the child of an immigrant. And then there's like some white people too, but it was just like my first experience, like where I felt like the general majority from whatever lens, like life experiences, ethnicity, how I look, just like how I'm received in the world, like representation in everything from TV ads to you're at Walmart and like, the faces on the clothing stuff, and who's checking your food out and who's also shopping, and like what's in the snack aisle, like I don't have to drive half an hour to an Asian grocery to get my little like rice snacks. Like it's all, there's like 2 aisles of it, and it's just Walmart. So that in itself in such a holistic, far-reaching way, like really has been good for my mental health, which I wasn't really expecting, because it's not like I usually walked around feeling like, oh, I wish I felt more represented and like seeing, it wasn't, but being there, it's amazing, and it really, it's just it's not an indictment. It's not anybody's fault when there's a majority population and a minority like that in itself, you know what I mean, is not like anybody's fault if that happens to be the case. But being aware of the dynamics, like
Yeah.
it gave me more empathy when I'm in spaces where there's other people who are more like the minority, like it gave me even more, because I didn't even realize how blessing to my soul and heart and mind it was just to always feel like part of sort of like an in group, like so much less work to connect, less work to feel seen and understood,
Yes.
things I can talk about with anyone, my employers, my coworkers, friends, someone I see at a coffee shop, that just, it's not even the type of thing you can think to try and like bring up with when you're not in that situation where sort of like everybody has so many similar experiences.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been really cool. And one cool, I'll just add this quick little story because I think it's cool. I've told both of you, but living here is the first time in my life I've never felt so specifically seen as like a person.
Yeah.
And it's because so many other people have similar physical traits to me that I feel like people actually see like my face. Whereas in a lot of spaces, especially in Fayetteville, North Carolina, like I was so often like one or like there was a small other group of Asian women or even just Asian people. And so I just felt like I looked like an Asian. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and even that, I kind of have beef with just like Asian. It's like there's so many countries in Asia, there's so many cultures, like, you know. And so, yeah, I just feel like people like literally see my face, which I never walked around with a chip on my shoulder feeling like people didn't. But now that I'm here, I'm like, oh my God, this is what it feels like to like be seen as an individual human being and not just like, the Asian girl. So
Yeah.
that's been beautiful.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Almost as beautiful as me. Never mind.
What? Say it.
No, just on a
Ladies.
note. Just a note. It
Ladies.
was actually about my mom, so bless her soul, because it was out of ignorance. But it just the thought of like being seen not just as like the Asian person. It's just as beautiful as my mom finally exercising, calling people Oriental from her vocabulary finally.
Which, I mean, granted, even like Asian people from your mom's generation, I don't think a lot of them have as much of an issue with it. Like my dad probably doesn't have beef with because it was that generation you know what I mean? Like to them,
Fair.
it's like,
It's like being called Negro. Like, don't call me that.
well,
No, I feel like there's a
No, no,
there's a difference.
There's a difference. Asian people
Yeah.
do not look upon Oriental the way I assume Black people take the word Negro. Like,
Yeah. I mean, but for anybody who might not know why there's issues with the word Oriental, it's because it relates to like trade and like, that was a way to describe like rugs and like art and objects. Any nice wrap up last note questions that we wanted to make sure we hit?
oh, I just wanted to I wanted to say something. But you can go. But I just wanted to say something real quick. It wasn't a question. It was just to say something.
No, you can tell everyone that you love me first. It's up to you.
No, I just wanted to I just want to emphasize the fact that we're three normal ass people besides Vince, celebrity Facebook, who are like, we work normal ass jobs. We're not nobody important. We're not nobody special. We literally was like, yo, if like our friends were doing a podcast, I would listen. And so this is how like Vince just birthed an idea between himself, me, and Leslie, and it was like,
Out
would
of
y'all be
placenta.
I was about to say, pulled it out, wiped the placenta off, used it as a facial, and then
y'all are disgusting. So like, man, we pushed some episodes, and like some of our friends like linked on Instagram and Twitter, and I just want to say, like, I don't know, I don't like, I wouldn't always follow just anyone, even if it was our friends. So like, I just want to say how like how heartwarming, how humbling, how sweet it was. Like some of y'all like were met, like Elliot, you fucking jumped in the Instagram DMs, was talking about like driving back from Atlanta. To everyone who like fought, whether you followed, liked, commented, and whatever you did, just everyone who showed up on that page for our Twitter and our Instagram. Thank you. Because like, man, it really does just feel so heartwarming and like sweet to see you guys' faces with the content. And thank you guys.
Yeah, retweet completely. I just saw
Agreed.
another one of my coworkers just follow the Instagram, so it's humbling and I appreciate it.
Damn.
Yeah, same.
Or I guess I feel like this might be a good parting question, and if not, you can just unfollow us, everyone that just followed.
Yeah.
Uh,
No.
to me, this is a good question. I'm curious if, as we go towards the end of 2020, is there any piece of art, piece of literature, or has there been any, like, I don't know, like lecture, anything that has stood out this year that you've read or consumed that was most impactful? Perhaps I should have prepped you guys for this question.
Damn.
Yeah. Maybe you can start to give us some time to think. If I'm assuming
Yeah.
you already have an answer.
The reason why I should have prepped you guys because I actually spent a long time thinking.
Yeah, you came out of the
you
week
you
with a
motherfucker.
light ending question, like the most required.
I was thinking. I felt like it felt like a closer. Like,
No, it is a good
Vince could have been like, "What's your favorite chicken wing flavor?"
one. Color.
Yeah, what's your favorite color? You like red? You like blue?
or drumsticks or flats. And the answer is flats. I feel like, and this is going to be a very me answer. I feel like there's a few lectures and a book called Behave by Robert Sapolsky that I read at the beginning of this year. And he's a neurobiologist, so he does a lot of work on the different layers of human behavior as it relates to like biology, anthropology, and there's like I think there's some philosophical implications of it. And I think for me that's been most impactful because it taught me on the note of me getting to a place of like learning more. I feel like it taught me what it means to think with complexity and nuance, which is something that people throw around a lot when they don't want to have to explain their views. They're like, you don't understand the nuance because there is no nuance. But it basically, like at a high level, um, introduced the different things that play with human behavior, something like anger. There's like a physiological reason for it. There's like a biological reason for it. There's an anthropological reason for the way that we show anger, and just showing that none of these things are the single reason, but these all happen at the same time in tandem. And all of them rely on each other and they feed off of each other. And to pick one out is really just to view the whole complex system from that framing, which I think I've extracted that. And that's how I view like people, society. I think it just gave me a practical way to understand things in a complex way, things like the dialectics and such. So I think for me, probably the less sexy thing I've read this year, but I think it's really shaped the way that I perceive everything that's happening and the way I talk about things.
And to clarify, you're saying you feel like after reading it, you realized at times you were only viewing it from one of those perspectives, and now you're able to more so in an integrated way, like consider the full symphony that's happening applied.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And apply that logic to everything.
We'll follow that, Kevin. What's the most
yeah.
It doesn't mean that serious.
Vincent really comes out here with this question that only he is prepared for.
So I was gonna say something really ignorant, but I won't.
No. Give us the ignorance.
I was, I was gonna quote a rapper with some really ignorant.
No.
I was gonna quote some shit from like 2 Chainz. I let him script us. I think it might have been this year. It was within like close enough time where it still has an impact on me. John Leguizamo's Latin History for Morons. I think it's still on Netflix. Say that again. John Leguizamo's Latin History for Morons.
Come on again for the back.
He tells the history of conquistadors coming from Spain, of Columbus, of what Southern America and the Caribbean islands went through, and then he like starts talking about the influence of Hispanic art, and then how like just all these different beautiful things, and kind of just paying credit where credit was due in terms of like culture and art and food and dance and history and wealth but also plight and struggle and all this other shit. So as a Latin kid who never took time to study that, and of course American curriculum doesn't teach it, I like Leslie was saying, to walk into Hawaii and to feel seen, to see so many cues, whether it's food, whether it's other physical characteristics in the predominant population. As I watched that, I've watched like 3 or 4 times now, like tears in my eyes, because things that it echoed things inside of me, it resonated things inside of me of like I never knew that a sadness and a heaviness and a loneliness and a vagueness I felt in myself, how to place it and where that was coming from, and then to see myself represented, half of myself represented outside of me, and for someone to tell the story, to affirm me and who I was, and but also tell it in such an intelligent, beautiful, because it's like a comedy show, so like it's this beautiful thing, to tell in such an artistically beautiful way, which I'm also inclined to. It was just like culturally, psychologically for me, which is why I was so impactful as a Latin kid, as a half Korean, half Latin kid. It was so psychologically like heartbreaking and heartwarming for me to see that.
That's
Love
so
that.
beautiful. I'm definitely gonna
Thank
watch
you.
it.
Yeah, now I'm
Thank you.
curious.
Thank
And not what I would have guessed.
Mhm.
I had a guess for both of you.
Ooh, I want to hear. Maybe you'll help because I'm still
I'll-
kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna share it after you shared. I figured
Oh.
yours would be something
That's
about
good.
Hamilton, Kevin, and then Leslie's. I assumed something from Naomi Klein.
Oh, no, actually, she was like, I've only read the one book by her, and yeah, it was impactful, but no, not her. Um, I can just say from this year, like, I think it was this year, I watched the full Cosmos series narrated by Neil deGrasse
Mm,
Tyson. Have you guys watched that?
it's
I've
been a
heard of it.
while.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I want to watch it again because there's obviously just so much to absorb. But that one from this year, in the basic sense of, following my deconstruction at the end of last year, it was really the first time I could like engage with and absorb and understand the theory of evolution, and more so just, yeah, engage with the vastness of our universe. And I think that's going to be one that continues to percolate over the next many years. And as I gather more and absorb more information, just, I don't think the full effects of it have manifested yet, but it was the starting point, right? Where like just on such a basic level, truly beginning to understand like how tiny, not just like us, but like our Earth and like our little time span is in context of the universe. It really is, I don't think, even possible for us to grasp. And it's funny because the closest like related strain of thinking to that I can think is when I was a Christian. I loved that verse that talks about, his ways are higher than our ways. Basically just like he is inherent, like God is ungraspable, and that often was like this placeholder for like things I couldn't understand, whether it was like commandments, whether it was just stuff in the Bible that God did, whether it was things playing out around me. It would always be like, okay, well, God's ways are higher, so if I could understand, he wouldn't be God, right? And for me, it's just been really beautiful. Whereas that was just sort of like a very basic placeholdery space. Now it's like understanding something that actually is so much bigger, and then but that there is room to like, there's so much you can learn, and like there's forward motion there. It's not just like a excuse for whatever, like morally questionable or whatever, issues that I have. So that's been pretty beautiful.
That is
I love that.
It
I would
is, it
love
is.
to. I feel like it'd be interesting to unpack that, but I know we're at time, and maybe we'll talk about your
Yeah.
deconstruction in a
Oh.
future episode.
In other news, I went on hikes the past 2 weekends and got to enjoy the bountiful fruit in Hawaii, which is such a cool part of living here. There's tons of wild fruits that grow everywhere. And so I just wanted to show them to our YouTube watchers and describe them to our Spotify and other place listeners. But the coolest one is definitely this. It's a lily koi. And as you can see, there's like these little seeds that are inside of these there's brown seeds inside of sticky yellow like sacks of like goo. And then you bite and you crunch it, and it's a little bit sour and sweet. It kind of like explodes in your mouth.
Looks like gravy.
Yeah.
What?
Looks like there's gravy inside.
The worst description.
Oh.
So this is a ripe lily koi, and then this is an unripe one. It's like very green and shiny. And then there's also little guavas. This is what a guava. Oh, and for lily koi, the word we use in the mainland is passion fruit for lily koi. So if you ever had like a passion fruit candy or drink, that's what it looks like. And then this is a guava, which when you break it open, Looks like it has little yellow seeds
Oh, yeah,
amongst
yeah.
pink flesh.
Yeah.
That's really good. And then this is Kevin. What is that voice? Also, Kevin's over here like, yeah, yeah.
I'm hungry as a motherfucker. You
Oh,
hear this
so
rabbit?
sorry.
I'm
I
kind of
realized
full.
I'm hungry too. I'm over here literally on Uber Eats scrolling.
I'm salivating like, nah, talking about them scenes, girl.
Give me that guava. Also, sorry, I had my mic far away from me. But the last one I wanted to show you is just another type of guava that's like white and has little seeds in it. And
Caucasian.
then I ate all of them, but there's also little strawberry guavas, which are smaller and like red and the bounty of Mother Earth.
Beautiful.
Hell yeah. Thank you for tuning in to the Bottomless Podcast. Please follow us on all social media platforms. BTTMLESS.
Oh.
We're keeping it. I swear to God, we're keeping.
Wow.
If you think that's not about to be our first clip on Instagram when we push
And cut.